Erev Tov Rishpon. Good morning in Aspen. Greetings to friends of Israel around the United States, around Israel, around the world. Indeed, we have folks calling in from already Costa Rica to Coconut Creek, Florida. We have friends in San Diego. We have friends in Beverlywood, California, the swamps of Florida, North Carolina, Maryland. Indeed, we have friends who hopefully are back for part two. Because if you are with us today from Dallas or Los Angeles or Miami, all the different places we have people calling in, this is actually the second part of our virtual tour that is going to take a look at some amazing places in Israel, the Jordan River tributaries, the area of the Hula Valley. We're going to go to waterfalls. We're going to go over bridges. We're going to see some really amazing stuff. Shachar Fertig, our amazing tour guide, had so much content in our first episode last month. We decided not to try to squeeze it all in, but to do a second episode. And indeed, Shachar, you are the ultimate, not only tour guide, but Israeli tourist at the moment, because you are traveling with your own family around the world. So maybe you can give us a little bit of a tip as well. First of all, before we find out where you are, I want to put a question to our audience. I neglected to say, my name's Wayne Firestone, and I love spending Sundays with you. I love learning new things week in, week out with my colleagues here at American Israel Friendship League. And indeed, we've been doing this for a long time now when we had no option of traveling. Now many of us are traveling and we are getting back into the routine of travel. So here's my question for you. What is your favorite travel gear? Did you find a new hat this year that you're using when you're out in the sun, it's really hot? Did you find some kind of new water bottle or some new gadget that's making it easier and fun to go on outdoor tours and hikes? So no matter where you are, let us know. Somebody put the Bible. That's an interesting piece of gear for travel. We're glad you have accompaniment in the form of inspiration. So anything you want to share with anyone that you've learned about your own travels this summer? Camera, cell phone, Nikon cameras. Are there people that remember even what Nikon cameras are? It's not, it's sort of like an old iPhone. So let us know what they are. Shachar, you're traveling with a young family. Israelis will go everywhere and anywhere if given the opportunity. You will hear Hebrew pretty much all around the world. Tell us about what it's like to travel with your family before we do a little teal together back home ba'aretz.
Yeah, okay, good. So thank you, Wayne. When we left Israel for this journey 2 months ago, I told my little kids, one of them is 2.5 and the other is now almost 5, that we are not being tourists right now. It's because we are going for a long journey. In a journey, you don't do tourist attractions every day, but you move slowly from place to place. It's also good for and healthy for the children, because in such a young age, it's not good for them emotionally to move quickly. They need to know where they are and to understand. So at least stay a week or 2 in each place. And so it's really beautiful. Sometimes we are really looking for a company of other children for them. Sometimes we find we've been to a big festival for a long time now that had quite a few families, so the children had a wonderful time in nature together. And it's this journey is also, it's not even being a tourist with a beautiful hotel and a driver and a tour guide can be difficult sometimes. Everybody has things that they want, and each one wants a different thing according to their personality and their age. In such a journey of ours, it's really, it's life. So it's we don't we have many days of joy and dancing and singing, and we have also low days of frustrations, and the children they need something and they don't know what they need. So it has also difficult moments, of course.
Well, Shachar, someone just put in the chat that as they've been traveling, they've been accompanied by Israeli music and song, Ma'agalim, the folk song. Are your kids singing? And as you go along, are there any favorite songs or melodies that you brought with you from Israel on your travels?
So first of all, yes, there's the one song that the teachers on Shaked, our older boy, they wrote to him as a goodbye from the kindergarten in the end of the year. So we sing this beautiful song. Sometimes it's private song. It's like it's our song. And then yesterday on the car, suddenly we were helping others, and others were helping us. And suddenly he recalled a beautiful song in Hebrew that it's from, I think it's from the Talmud, and which tells about how to be a good person, or what is a good way to live in. He answers, it answers for few rabbis. It says that you will have a good eye, unlike the evil eye, so you will see things in a positive way, that you will be a good friend and a good neighbor, and the most important of all is that to have to have a happy, loving heart.
Well, that sounds like great gear to bring along on any hike. Today, you're taking us back to a region that you love and that we started a month ago. Nobody needs to have participated last time in order to join today's tour. We'll be covering different ground. So let's go ahead and bring up the slides, and Shachar, tell us a little about where we're going to start today.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. So I'm sharing my screen. Yes, so last month we visited Dan stream and a bit of the kibbutz itself and the history of the Dan. We are talking about the tributaries, the three main tributaries of the Jordan River. And today we are going to talk mainly about the Banyas or Panyas, and also a little bit about the third brother, the Hatzbani, the longest tributary of the Jordan River. Here in this picture, you can see a bit of the lushing water of the Banyas. And this is a map that we saw last time that we've been here. You can see the Lake Kinneret there in the south, in the bottom, and the Jordan River on its northern part comes from here. These are the sources. So we can see here Dan is coming from one spot, from one big spring. It's the biggest spring on the Middle East. And from here it flows into the Jordan River. That was last month. And today we are going to talk about the Banyas or Hermon stream, and about Snir or Hatzbani. Both have the older names, if it's in Arabic or in Greek origins, and also Hebrew names that were given with the independence of Israel. So this is the basin, and just for the general knowledge, the Jordan River, it flows into the Sea of Galilee, Lake Kinneret, and then it leaves the Lake Kinneret and it goes south all the way to the Dead Sea. It's dammed, so the flow is not very strong there, but this is the natural course of this river. I chose to start with this old postcard that I found, which shows us the upside down tank, T-34 Syrian tank that is lying on the Banyas River. Today, if you go to this place, this is probably a picture from, I believe, 70s or 80s. If you go today to this place, the vegetation grew all above the tank, and you can go and see it, but there are trees all around it, and it's completely shaded. So this is probably 40 years ago. And we will talk about this tank later in this tour. This map is showing us the borders of Israel until 1967, with the border with Lebanon, which is today it's the same border here. And on the right, this used to be the border with Syria. This is the Golan Heights, and here is the valley where it is said that the finger of Galilee. Kibbutz Dan, and the source of the Dan River is up here on the right upper border, and the Snir is flowing from Mount Hermon down here. Hermon Banyas is flowing from Mount Hermon down here, and Snir is coming from here into Israel from Lebanon. Today, the border with Syria is about 15 miles to the east, as it is since the 6 Days War. And a little bit about the names of these rivers, the Hebrew names and the sources of the names. So Chatzbani is coming from a spring that is in Lebanon, from a little town that is called Chatzbaya. And from Chatzbaya, it's a Chatzbani, so it's an Arab name. And in Hebrew, this river was called Snir, which is the name of Mount Hermon in the Amori language. The Amoris were one of the Canaanite nations that lived in the land of Canaan some 5,000 years ago, and it is mentioned that they named Mount Hermon Snir. The Banyas has another story because it is coming from the Greek Paneas. Paneas was the city of Pan, of the god Pan. And with the years and with the Arab population that lived here, it turned from Panias to Banyas, because in Arabic, you don't pronounce P. And then it comes to be a Banyas. But the original pronunciation would be Paneas. And in Hebrew, it was named Hermon, on Mount Hermon. So Snir and Hermon, two names of the same mountain, two rivers that flow in the bottom of the same mountain from two different sides. And these are the Chatzbani and the Banyas. And the third, as we said, is the Dan, after the child of Jacob, the Israelite tribe that settled there. An easy way to remember these three tributaries, it says here in Hebrew, if you can read it, but we say there is an acronym of the three rivers, Chatzbani, Banyas, and Dan, and they form together Chabad, if you know the Chabad school of Judaism, so it's the same acronym. But this school is not about Chatzbani, Banyas, and Dan, but three levels of Jewish wisdom and knowledge: Chokhmah, Binah, and Dat. In the picture here, you can see this is a piece of a wall painting that is in the Louvre in Paris, and it depicts some of the Amori nation that we mentioned earlier. And here, this is the waterfall. The waterfall of the Banyas. It's the largest waterfall in Israel, but if you live in America or in Europe, it will sound small to you. But for us, when we go there, we are in awe. It is 30 feet tall, 10 meters. And when we stand there, we said, wow, this is immense amount of water with great noise. The water falls into the big pool. And for us in Israel, this is the most exciting waterfall. We have maybe taller ones, but this is with the largest amount of water that goes through. A very impressive spot. And with the sparkle of the water, sometimes you can see little rainbows inside the water. This is the place where the water comes out of one of the main springs in the Banyas Nature Reserve, and you can see many trout fish, local trout fish that are swimming in the water there. And the plenty of water is a beautiful thing to see in the desert country. And here is a flower that my brother caught there. I really love this flower. In Hebrew, it's called Butzin Meforatz. And in English, it is called, you can see, mullein. And this flower, the whole plant has the branches that goes like this, like the menorah in the temple. And it is said that good chance that this design of the shape of the flower, it is said that the menorah in the temple was shaped as buttons and flowers. And so there is an assumption that it was designed after or in the shape of this plant, a flower and a button, the flower buds. And this, the butzin has a beautiful secret or a marvel, that if you cut one of the petals, it's very soft and small. The size of it is about half an inch. And if you cut gently the edge of one of the petals, after 30 or 50 seconds, the flower will lower his head and fall down. So there's something about the mechanism of the water pressure inside the flower, that once the flower knows that it's a bit damaged, it says, okay, I'm going away and I will let my neighbors to blossom instead of me. A perfectionist flower, I would say. So I really love, personally, I really love this flower, and every time I see it, I am excited from the rich biological and historical context that it has in my mind. And here is the entrance to the Bunnies Reserve, and you can see a bit more of the blossom here. Enjoy these pictures. I'm not in Israel currently right now, but my brother went especially for us. So these pictures are from about 4 days ago. I asked him to give us a little sense, and you can see the bees and the butterflies are working around to pick the pollen. And you can see the bees are coming and sitting on the flower, and butterflies. And the tranquility and the beauty of the nature here. And in the background, you can see already the temples, the Greek temples of Pan. And we will get there really soon. And the water in the background, if you can see it. A really gorgeous place. And so let's talk about the name Panias and the god Pan. You can see in the dark area, just there where I point now, this is a karstic cave that, according to the scripts, it says that some 2,000 years ago, there was a river flowing out of this cave. Today, a river does not flow out of the cave, but it comes out of the rock from very close to this site. And what we look at now, all this platform, is the sacred place that in the Hellenistic period, some 2,300 years ago, Greek culture prevailed, and a pagan temple for the god Pan was established. Pan was the god of isolated places, of music, and also of sexuality and fertility, the god of the shepherds and the goats. And this is a depiction that shows as what it looked like back in the day. So you can see on the left behind this Greek temple, the cave with the water was the water flow came out of this cave according to the scripts. but there was a temple above it and another temple here. And you can see here in the small niche, the people are standing around in a ritual, and there is a statue of Pan inside. But today, when you visit it, this is what's left: the niche on the wall and the platform and a bit of pillars. And here it is from a different view. And let's look around at what's left there. You can see the pillars of the Corinthian style. The stairs that goes up. You can see one of the niches on the wall and the ancient floor, which is preserved in a very nice status. And when you stand there, you can imagine the pagan ceremonies that were taking place over there. Yeah. So this is what's left today from the structures, from the buildings. Different rooms. And I think it's enough. So this is a picture of one of these niches from closer, and here you would put the statue of Pan. Pan was a half man, half goat, and here in this this little idol that I put here is actually myself. I have a hobby of theater, so I'm. Sometimes I write little plays and I play them. I studied some years in a fringe theater in Israel. So this is one of the characters that I made after learning about the Banyas and the god Pan. It's actually a satyr, which physically looks the same. In an interesting way, the Pan and the satyrs. Pan is not an incarnation, but is a face of Dionysus. Dionysus, the god of wine and celebration and party. Sometimes he had a sexual side of it, and he liked to approach the nymphs, the beautiful nymphs of the forest, and he would do it in his form of Pan. This half man, half goat that is playing the flute and charming the nymphs and the others. Interestingly, he is associated with inclination and creation. In Hebrew, there is a little magic about because we are talking about a Greek god from a Greek culture. But when you look at the Hebrew context of it, of the language of Hebrew, inclination in Hebrew is yetzarim, yetzer. You know, the evil inclination is yetzer hara, for example, the good inclination, yetzer hatov. Yetzira in Hebrew is creation. And so the creation, like music is a creation and other creations, yetzira in Hebrew. Yetzarim is the inclination, and our inclinations bring to our creation, conceptually. So in the Hebrew language, they are both from the same root. And interestingly, also flint, flint stone, the first stone that people used to make knives and tools, the first creation is called tzor. So tzor, flint, yetzarim, inclination, yetzira, creation. And tzur, I will mention it sooner. Tzur is a rock. So tzur, rock, tzor, flint, yetzarim, inclination, and yetzira, creation. This is another pan, classic pan painting, and another one of me. And back to the banyas, or maybe we should call it panyas. This is the hung bridge over the Panyas. It's not a long trail, but it's a very special because until it was built about 15 years ago, these are parts of the river that we couldn't walk because it's the banks are too steep or not walkable. So this path was made on top of 240 feet that you can see, one of the most beautiful parts of this trail. Maybe another last anecdote about pan. You know the word panic. So the word panic is coming from Latin panica. Panica means pan is coming. So there was a phenomenon of the goats and the sheep when sometimes they get panics and they flee. The whole herd is fleeing, and then the pastor has to go and look for them maybe for days. And the word panic is coming from this phenomenon because Pan was the god of shepherds, and they say Pan is coming, and when Pan is coming, the goats and the sheep are shaking. So this is where panic is coming from. And the wonderful word that a Greek man that I met last week told me, you know the word tragedy. So tragedy is also coming from the same word. Because in Greek, I don't know if anyone of you know goats, but goats, when they are out for mating and they don't find the mate yet, they yell. I live next to goats and it sounds like this. In Greek, this call is called trago. And trago, the call of the goat, this cry of the goat is the source of the word tragedy. So every time you are saying tragedy, you're actually telling about the yelling of the goats. So panic and tragedy coming from the goats and god Pan. Another part of the Banyas Nature Reserve is Caesarea Philippi. Caesarea Philippi was built by Philip the Tetrarch, a descendant of Herod the Great, his son actually, and Herod the Great died 4 years before Common Era, according to scholars. The New Testament tells something a bit different. It doesn't say years, but scholars said that he died 4 years before Common Era. And after his death, the kingdom that he held was split to a few of his sons. So Philip the Tetrarch was one of those sons that got to reign over Syria and over the finger of Galilee, the source of the waters the area that we are talking about now. And he established this city of Caesarea Philippi in the year 3 before Common Era, before Christ. What is so important about this city, except that it's sitting on the same source of water of the Banyas, but here happened a very important moment in the world, in the New Testament, in the life of Jesus. In this picture that was painted in 1636 by Nicolas Poussin, you can see Jesus dressed in red. And Peter is here kneeling, and if you look in his hands, he's holding something. What is it that he's holding? Can you tell? So all the disciples are looking in awe in this moment. This is the moment that Jesus is giving the keys to the heaven to Peter, Simon, or Shimon in Hebrew. And he tells him, Simon, I'm calling you Peter, and you will be the rock on which my church will be built upon. Back to the Hebrew, you remember Tzor is the flint and Tzur is the rock. So in the Hebrew version of this story, Jesus tell him, Shimon, you are going to be the tzur. The tzur, the rock on which the church is going to be built upon. And in Latin, it is said Petrus. Petrus is also a rock, and here is the source for the name Peter. We can maybe read some of the verses of this is from Matthew 16. And when Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he questioned his disciples, "Who do people say the Son of Man is?" And they replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. But what about you?" Jesus asked, "Who do you say I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus replied, "Blessed are you, Simon of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock we will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." And since then, we in the Catholic Church, I'm not sure about the Orthodox, but Catholic Church sees Peter as the first Pope, from this moment getting the keys to the heavens. So it's a great point of interest for Christian people, for Catholics, for Orthodox to visit Caesarea Philippi, which lies on the shores of the Banyas. Let's see a bit more of this beautiful place. Another video that shows us. Okay, this video has a little problem. I will try to return to it later. Here is the foundation of a Byzantine church that was found from about more than 1600 years ago. As this place is holy for Christianity, it had a Byzantine Christian presence there after the Roman Empire turned to Christianity and turned to become Byzantine. Basically, for those of you who don't know exactly the terms, after the Roman Empire, it was a pagan empire. In the 4th century, Queen Helen, the year 324, Queen Helen, the mother of Constantine, she visited the land of Israel. She visits Jerusalem. She's after centuries that Judaism and Christianity were forbidden, and that's why we have a lot of both religions have martyrs from these centuries. In the 4th century, it was already not just allowed, but the mother of the Caesar, Helen, Queen Helen, was already Christian herself, and she came to Jerusalem and came to other places in Israel and marked the holy places and built churches on them. So, and by the end of the 4th century, the Roman Empire turns to Christianity entirely, and since that moment, it is called Byzantine. It's the same people, it's the same monetary system, but instead of pagan temples, they stopped the pagan worshipping and turned and started worshipping, building churches for Jesus and telling the stories of the New Testament. So this is the remnants of the church, and another view of the ruins in this area. Okay, we saw this already. And this area is another part. For though I hope you love archaeology, because this tour is with a lot of archaeological findings. So about we are 60 years later, and King Agrippas, which is the great grandchild of Herod the Great, he rebuilds the city, named it Neronias, in the honor of the Caesar Neron. They all had the relationship with the Romans, and if you see according to the years, and you remember that Jerusalem was destroyed in the year 70 Common Era. So King Agrippas was almost the last king before this great revolt happened it started in the year 66. So all the Israelite kings until then tried to make everything to keep good relationship with the Roman Caesars, naming cities after them and giving them gifts and paying tribute, even marrying women and political arrangements. And just a few years later, the big revolt started, and when it ended, Titus, the son of Aspasianus, that destroyed Jerusalem and the temple, he came to this city and celebrated by the water on the way back to Rome, celebrated the victory and the birthday of his brother here on these ruins. Another view of the palace. Agrippas II. And now we are going back to the story of the Syrian tank. This map that you can see here is a map from before 1967. And you can see where the tank is. There is this line of the border with those X's, the dark X's. And here to the right and top in Hebrew letters, you can see the word Banyas. That was a small Arab Syrian village. So where it says the Syrian Tank, it's all Syrian land back then. You can see that the river of the Banyas, this blue line over here, is within the borders of Israel. That was decided. This border was decided in the days of the British Mandate, between the British and the French, because before Syria and Israel, here on the right was French Mandate, and to the left was the British Mandate. The mandates that they got to form democracies in the Middle East after the destruction of the Ottoman Empire. So this used to be actually the border between Britain and France. But then later, after the Second World War, the British withdrew, and the borders were Israel. The same border, the same line was Israel versus Syria. And the story of this tank was Dan and Kibbutz Dan and the river Dan is here in this upper corner. And in the 6 Days War, if you remember, there was a surprise attack of the Israeli Air Force on the Egyptian Air Force and on the Syrian Air Force while they were still on the ground. But there was also stories of local improvisation, and the people of Kibbutz Dan, some of them were reserve soldiers. They didn't have much weapon, but Syrian tanks, a few Syrian tanks from the type T-34, if you know them, it's a Russian make, approach the fields of the kibbutz. And the people of Dan went with the little weapon that they had and started to block and to stop those tanks with the little armor that they had. And they managed to burn some of the fields around the tanks and to shoot them with heavy fire with all that they had. 16 and 17 years old teenagers of the kibbutz were running to bring more ammunition to the fighters. And in the end, they say that one tank fell to the valley over here. One tank managed to flee, and one tank was disappeared. And later, it was found that this tank that disappeared fell from the cliff. Probably was fearing of the fire and fell from the cliff to the bottom of the Banyas. And today, when you walk in the Bunnies Reserve, if you want a hike, you can visit the ruins of it. You know, it's one spot that is very popular among the Israelis to visit. It's more for hikers. It's not in the very comfortable nature reserve. You need to hike a little bit in order to get there. And it was left there, I believe, as a monument for this war and for this victory. Maybe we can watch a little bit of the view walking around.
Shachar, how far is Kibbutz Dan from this site?
It's about 2 miles away.
So very close.
Yeah, 2 miles away. Yeah, it's all this piece of land is it's a very small piece of land. You can see the opening at the bottom of the tank that we just passed it. I can show you again. This is a place where this opening here on the right is a place where the fighters can get out of the tank if in case it flips down like it happened here. So they can get out, and you can see it. After so many years, it's kept in quite in a good shape. Maybe the last topic or site in this beautiful reserve is wheat mill Matruf. Wheat mill Matruf is a wheat mill that operated on water. The water rolls a turbine, and above the turbine stands a stone and the millstones, and they are milling and grinding the wheat for wheat. What is so important and unique about this flour mill, because we have many of these ruins around the north of Israel, where you have the water and the rivers, then you have these turbines. But this one was operating until the 1980s. So just 40 years ago, they still used the power of the water to mill the wheat. It was active about 100 years, and the archaeologists say that the foundation of it has a Roman history and Crusader history, which is about 1,000 years ago. But the structure itself is about 100 years old. And this is from inside. You can see this, how do they say? It's like not a pipe, I don't remember the word, but you put the wheat inside and it goes down to the stone. The stone is rolling and grinding the wheat. And here you can see a nice sketch that explains it. You put the grains up here into this box. The seeds are going down. Here you have two basalt stones, which are lava rock, the strongest rock that we have in Israel. One is lying down and is not moving, and the upper one is connected to the pole that is here, and the water comes from this little aqueduct, and it falls in a shaft, making a high pressure of water and rolling the turbine. And the turbine rolls the stone, and the wheat is milled to flour. So this is classical wheat mill of water from this region. This is this part of the country. So this is also a place, a beautiful place that you can visit when you are in the Bunnies Reserve. And next to it, there is a nice, you can have nice Druze pita with a labane, with a sour cheese, or with chocolate if you like it sweeter and less traditional. So it's a very picturesque place. And here is one beautiful spot in the Chatzbani path. We said we will talk about the third brother, the Chatzbani, or with this Hebrew Amori name, the Snir. It is coming from a spring called, it begins in Lebanon, in Naba El Chatzbaya. Naba in Hebrew, in Arabic you say Naba, in Hebrew we say Nevi'ah, which is when the water comes out of the rock. The spring itself. So Naba el Chatzbaya, the spring of Chatzbaya, the source of Chatzbani in Lebanon. It's the longest tributary of the Jordan River. It's 65 kilometers, which is about 42 miles. And then it flows toward Israel through Lebanon. Most of it is in Lebanon. And then it passes the larger source of water, which is called Eden El Razani, which is by a town called Rajar. Now, Naba El Chatzbaya in Lebanon is being, most of his water is being pumped and used for drinking and irrigation in Lebanon. So most of the Snir in Lebanon is not flowing anymore. And the water of it is actually beginning from the bigger spring, Rajar. Rajar, this town is located just on the border between Israel and Lebanon. And Rajar is a fascinating place that when you approach it with your car, you find yourself with many signs that say, don't get into the village, it's a military zone. Because Rajar is a unique village where half of it is in Israel and half of it in Lebanon, but the people of Rajar can pass from the Israeli side to the Lebanese side because it's one village. So they can cross the border as one village, and they keep good relations with both the sides of the border. So this is where this spring is coming from. The Chatzbani today is coming from, which is called Ein El Razan. And the best thing to do on the Chatzbani is rafting. It's not whitewater rafting. It's an easy rafting for families. Here you can see there's a part which is for families and a part for the stronger with no children, which you can see here. And so a visit in the hot summer days to this region of Israel. If you go there, you may want to have a beautiful raft with your family, with your friends, on the quiet path or on the more turbulent path. But both of them are quite safe, and you don't need a guide on the boat. It's like you go alone on the boat with your friends. The water is beautiful and clear and clean. It's so popular that if you park or camp on the shores of this river, you will see hundreds of these boats every day passing in front of you. And in the safety instructions, they also always tell you, do not splash, do not jump in the water. And then you can see a fascinating phenomenon that all the Israelis are in the water splashing each other, and the Americans are sitting in the boat and they're looking amazed at the scenery. Yes, this is again my little pan that I brought it a little bit for tours with children when we walk in the banyas. Sometimes I even went into the water with it, bringing this spirit of this crazy God of creation and inclination. And well, the children love it. Sometimes they want to hit it. Sometimes they want to chase it. Sometimes this character is weak like a goat, and sometimes it's powerful like a god. Maybe we can have some time for questions.
Sure. Shachar, I have to begin by telling you, you covered such a rich variety of teachings during this tour, and people are reacting to it really wonderfully. Agnes says you made me laugh, and Deborah said you sign her up for the Chatzbani rafting tour. I don't know whether she's going to be quietly obeying the instructions, looking at the beautiful nature reserve, or splashing back the Israelis who are misbehaving and enjoying themselves in the rafting. But really very exciting. Just to be clear on this last picture, was that you in the pond costume on all three of those images?
Yes, it's me.
Wow.
It's me. Yes, it's me in the theater. And actually, these pictures were taken by one of the greatest medical clowns of Israel. Medical clown, is it the right term? How do you call them?
Sure.
Medical clown. He's the photographer. He established the IDF, the Israel Defense Force, a medical clown unit that goes to help people in in times of war, or is even sent to other countries in times of there's an earthquake or a humanitarian disaster, so they fly over there. And he said that this moment that he saw this character that I made, he was so thrilled he had to take his phone out in the theater and take this picture. And maybe it's the best picture I have of this character.
That's really fantastic. And again, you talked about Yetzirah. You gave us so much today in etymology and about the names and the overlap from archaeology. I have to call out Deborah saying archaeology is cool. You asked the rhetorical question whether or not people like archaeology. I think you found the right crowd, certainly for today. And indeed, by going through various sites that are of historic importance to different faith groups, to tourists from around the world, you're underscoring why Israel is such a destination point for so many different people, and is really a place that welcomes everyone to explore their history, to explore their faith, to explore indeed the beauty, but also the history and the archaeology and the etymology of many common words that you shared with us today. Let me get to a couple of the questions here. An early question, as you were talking about the origins of some of the names. Hermon, what do we know about what Hermon means, and what the etymology? I see you grinning already.
No, yeah, because it's a question that I asked myself while I made this tour, and I tried to look for it. But Hermon is a biblical name. It appears in the Bible, and I couldn't find any source of it other than the Bible that will tell us. It's like the Alps.
Well, that itself is important, I think, just in terms of orientation and reminders. So many of these places, the pronunciations change over time.
Yeah, so the Bible in Hebrew letters, it says Hermon. This is how the letters are written, and I don't know any other source of it. As we mentioned in the previous month, we talked about the fact that the kingdom of Israel stretched from Dan to Eilat, from the northern edge to all the way to the south to Eilat. And the Mount Hermon is it's steep and cold and did not have any other cities on it. You see, Wayne is frozen. Am I alone? Okay, so maybe you can write me questions because I see that Wayne something happened to his line. I will try to answer. If you can right now a question, I can try to answer it. And if not, it's okay. I will maybe summarize, and I will tell that when we spoke about Dan and the ruins of Dan and Laish last month, we talked mainly about Jewish history and the biblical Jewish Bible history. And today we touched Hellenistic Greek mythology. We touched the New Testament and the giving of the keys to the heavens. What happened to the people in the Syrian Tank that fell to the water? Did they survive? So I heard that because in a tank you have usually 4 people, and I heard that 2 of them managed to escape from the bottom, and 2 of them died inside. How far it is from Tel Aviv to Banyas? It's about 2.5-hour ride if you're not driving in the rush hours. How does one get to the Bunnies Reserve? Rental car or traditional day tour from what nearby city? So the nearby city is Kiryat Shmona. And there is a great hotel of Kfar Giladi. The kibbutz around has also hotels. Day tour from Tel Aviv will be difficult to get. A rental car is wonderful. If you have a bigger budget, you can take a car with a tour guide, or join a community that comes together. This is, I think, for me, it's the best. As a tour guide, I love when communities come together and they come together and celebrate being in Israel together, and then you can go together to the Bunnies, for example. How is the water of the rivers affected by the seasons? In the summer, the water is lower, and in the winter, it can be, after rains, it can be very, very high. In the summer, it gets lower, but still it flows. All the 3 rivers flow all around the year, and that's why it's so special for us in Israel that we can come from the south, from the desert, from the mountains to the river. Can we go on a tour with you? Yes, you can. Do I have a tour company? Yes, I would love you to call me. Hi, Wayne. Welcome back.
Hey, Shachar.
Welcome back. So just answering about the contact with me, you can here on the bottom, you can see my email. If you have questions or requests for tours or anything, you can email me. It's shahar.fertig@gmail.com. And I reply every mail if you have questions, if you have requests, with a lot of pleasure.
Shachar, thanks so much for taking us on this very rich tour today. Sorry for that little glitch there at the end. We indeed cover a lot of ground on the virtual tour, so we're so grateful that you were able to do the 2 of these. We had questions about where you are, so we'll save for a future episode. We want people to come back and hear more about your travels with your family. We want to invite everybody to come back for next week, please. We have this coming Sunday, the Carnegie Youth Jazz Orchestra, an end of the summer concert. This is actually a replay. If you like music and you like young people and you like jazz, it's a great way to end your summer. So please come back and see that. And also on March 31st, just after the Wednesday after, we've got a biography film about Yitzhak Shamir. We will be bringing you both of these things as we close out the summer. As with everything else, we enjoy building community here, bringing new perspectives, showing you different sides of Israel. Thank you all for joining us today. Have a safe week and a great end to the summer. Thank you, Shachar. Nisiya Tova to you and your family.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, everybody. Have a sweet week.